All right, we have some AV limitations here. Those of you who've seen me speak before know that I like to move around the stage. I'm tethered, though. I'm stuck. I'm like a lion in a cage. I can only go this far, so I'll do my very best. The topic for today is creating a preeminent global cannabis company, building a global cannabis leader. And what a coincidence, because that's what I do every day. Now, I noticed that we have some Aurora shareholders in the audience. I've already spoken to a few of you. How many are already Aurora shareholders? That's awesome. That's a good number. Let's see if afterwards we can make that 100%. So I want to talk to you about a few things, about what we've done, what we're doing, and really what it requires to operate, to participate, to compete successfully at this new global level, something that didn't really exist even a year ago. And to give you an idea of how fast things are moving as we work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week in this business, I asked my colleague earlier to track our historical prices for Aurora. Now, just remember, I joined Aurora in March of 2016. I came over from Canopy in March of 2016, and at that time, we had 35 employees. We had one facility north of Calgary. We'd sold about 100 kilograms of cannabis with 35 employees, and we had a market capitalization on the CSE, the Canadian Securities Exchange, of $70 million. In 2.5 years, that's changed a lot. We now have 1,400 employees around the world. We are generating massive sales that are just about to go north like a hockey stick as our production takes off this fall. And our market capitalization is, I don't know, where did we close on Friday? It's around $8-9 billion. But our price history is interesting, and it's important because we all get worried about the volatility in this sector. Nobody more than me. I was talking to a couple of our shareholders earlier, and when we see over the course of a week a $1 billion increase in our market capitalization and then the next day a $1 billion decrease because this sector is so volatile, who do you think gets yelled at the most? You're looking at them. It's me and my team, and it's not a heck of a lot of fun, but for heaven's sake, let's be real. Let's look at the data and let's keep things in perspective. So 3 years ago, ACB was trading at 34 cents. 2 years ago, ACB was trading at $1.15. 1 year ago, ACB was trading at $2.70. And we closed on Friday at $8.54. Now, that's not the all-time high. We haven't held the all-time high yet. Quite frankly, when our stock broke $15 briefly in January, I was alarmed because we hadn't justified it yet. We hadn't justified it for our shareholders. Now we have. And now's when things start to happen. Let me give you an idea of some of the catalysts that are coming our way. How many have heard about Aurora Sky? Aurora Sky is a game changer in the cannabis business, a game changer, and I'll tell you why. It's unique. There's nothing like Aurora Sky. Nobody else is building massive indoor facilities with a glass roof. And that's what Aurora Sky is. Aurora Sky and the other Sky class facilities, we call them Sky class because, like aircraft carriers, the entire class is named after the first one, like the Nimitz class of aircraft carriers. So we're building Sky class facilities. We have one operating and ready and pumping out beautiful cannabis at Edmonton International Airport. We're building one in Medicine Hat, which is both the sunniest city in Canada and the silliest place name in Canada. We're building one in Odense, Denmark. And we're building one in participation with our partners, T-God. They're our partners. We're sharing that technology with them. And those are the only facilities like them in the world. Now, what's different about them is part of what differentiates Aurora, and it's part of why we will succeed on the global stage. It's why we will be around in 5 years and 20 years and 50 years. The concept is a closed system. That's the way we do things. we're going to be participating in outdoor grows in different parts of the world, and where necessary, we're using some smaller greenhouses. But our concept from the very beginning has been purpose-built facilities, facilities that are built indoor with precision control over all the environmental variables, that don't lose crops, And the Sky Class facilities continue in that vein. All of our facilities are designed to meet European Union good manufacturing practices standards. Is that important? Only if you like selling cannabis for 50% more than you can get in Canada. Only if you want to participate in what will be the world's largest medical cannabis market in just a few years. So the answer obviously is yes, you do want that EU GMP capability. And our Sky Class facilities are that concept of precision control writ large. They were designed to deliver without compromise 3 critical objectives. 1, mass scale, enormous quantities of cannabis. Aurora Sky alone, at full capacity, which will reach in the early part of 2019, will produce more than 100,000 kilograms of cannabis per year. Mass scale is number 1. Number 2 is high quality of cannabis, because by God, we have a hard-earned reputation for quality cannabis. If you take a flower, a bud of Aurora cannabis in one hand and the flower of most of our peers, certainly our large peers, in the other hand, you'll see the difference. You'll smell the difference. And if you consume it, you'll experience the difference. It's recognized, it's acknowledged, it's well known. We are not trading away that reputation. And so, while we are building these mass-scale facilities, 3 million square feet worth among Aurora, Sky, Sun, and Nordic, we're not compromising on quality. And the nicest thing of all is, we're not compromising on low-cost production either. Now, Aurora has been, because we're really, really good at growing cannabis, we've been a low-cost producer. In our last quarterly results, that was Q3 2018, we reported around $1.50 a gram cash cost to produce. And that is on the low end of the industry, not many below that. Our Sky Class facilities take production efficiency to the next level. And we are going to be producing that high-quality cannabis at mass scale at less than $1 a gram. How much less, we don't know yet. We'll need a few grow cycles under our belt before we can say for certain. But we know it'll be under $1 a gram, and we say it'll be the new benchmark, the lowest cost in the industry. Now, some people say that that doesn't matter. All that matters is branding. You just slap a brand on cannabis and people will buy anything. I don't agree. You got to have a great brand, and Aurora has a great brand, and we're investing in marketing to ensure that we have a great brand, both on the medical side and on the consumer side. But a brand has to be built on something. It's built on a promise to customers. It's built on quality. It's built on the experience that you offer to them. And it's also built on something else, the ability to make money. So in order to generate margin in this business, you're going to be selling for price X. You're going to be producing for price Y. The difference is your margin. In other words, the bottom line for any cannabis company is if you intend to participate in the Canadian medical sector, the next segment being the Canadian consumer segment, and the next segment being the global medical segment, you want to compete and succeed in all of those segments, well, you need a low-cost source of raw material, don't you? You have to have that low-cost source of raw material, whether you grow it yourself or you acquire it from somewhere else. Now, we've chosen to do it ourselves because we think we can do it better than anybody else on mass scale. And we are the only ones in the world who have developed this capability, which we invented in-house along with Thomas Larson from Larson Limited, whom we liked so much that we bought him and made him head of Aurora Larson Projects. Nobody else has this capability of producing these mass-scale indoor facilities, closed systems with complete environmental control, with MERV level 13 and 14 air filtration, and a glass roof to make use of the sun. The difference is startling. Here's what it is. In your typical greenhouse, you will get 2 to 3 grow cycles per year in Canada. In our indoor facilities, we're already getting 5.5. In our Sky Class facilities, we're going to get better than 6. And our production efficiency per square foot, which was already the highest in the industry, along with one other Canadian licensed producer. Anybody know what that one was? MedRelief. MedRelief was the only large LP with higher production efficiency per square foot than ours. It's one of the reasons why it was such a logical acquisition target for us. In fact, there were no 2 producers in Canada that were more similar than Aurora and MedRelief in terms of commitment to high-quality product, in terms of commitment to technology, in terms of commitment to high production efficiency. And now we're one. And production efficiency matters because one of the ways to ensure high production efficiency is that you don't lose crops. That's commandment number 1 in this business: don't lose crops. And in order not to lose crops, you have to prevent certain things from touching your plants. You can't allow contaminants into your facility. You can't allow powdery mildew and black mold into your facility. That's very hard to do when your facilities are open to the air. The best way to do it is to make sure that that air in there is the cleanest anybody will ever breathe. And I'm at Aurora Sky every week. I was out there this week. We'll be out there next week. Inside our flower rooms with MERV level 14 air filtration, you'll never breathe cleaner air unless you work in a level 4 lab. The importance of that is even greater when you look at it on a global scale. And that is what we're doing. That's our objective. That's our plan, to create a global leader, to invent this global industry. And the production efficiency, the reliability and predictability of your crops and your yields is even more important when you take this to a global level. I spent my whole career before moving into this sector in the global biopharmaceutical industry. I worked for companies like Bayer and Pfizer and Amgen and Eli Lilly. And let me tell you, when you're operating on a global level, you have to have predictability. You have to de-risk the entire process. And that is specifically what we've done. The Sky Class concept is the most scalable and replicable production concept in the industry. It's not a cobbled together group of different facilities with different cultivation styles. It's not open to the air. We can't afford to take risks of crop loss. We need to know where that product is coming from for the dried cannabis and the derivative products. And we need to know that it will be there predictably. And we need to know that we can do this on a global level. What we have done effectively is we have de-risked a major element of the cannabis business, and that is production and the generation of raw materials, to the point that Aurora was the first cannabis company in the world to get a large debt facility. Have you heard about this? We have a $200, soon to be $250 million loan arrangement with BMO, Bank of Montreal. This is the first Tier 1 bank to enter into the cannabis sector with a traditional loan facility. No more equity raises, a traditional loan facility. And the reason why Aurora was the first to come to an agreement for a traditional loan facility is not just because they believed in our business strategy, not just because they believe that we are on our way to generating large revenues and solid EBITDA. It's because when a bank of that size lends you $250 million, they want to know that they're not going to lose their money. In essence, what we've done is we have de-risked this critical element of the business before anybody else has. And thus far, we are alone in having this scale of well-controlled indoor facility. It's something I'm very proud of. Now, there are a few things that you need if you're going to build a global cannabis company. You need that scale, and we sure as heck have that scale. In Canada alone right now, we have 7 facilities producing across Canada. We have 2 facilities that we're building in Denmark. We own 23% of Can Group in Australia, where they are building a mini version of Aurora Sky at Melbourne International Airport. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's smart strategy. You have to have the low production costs, and you have to have those high yields and reliable yields. And we've done that. So we've checked that box. You need the distribution channels in Canada for now, and globally soon. So what we've done in Canada, we have distribution agreements. We are selling into 7 provinces now, and I have no doubt that we'll get into the others as well. We have agreements with Shoppers Drug Mart and PharmaSave and PharmaChoice. And we also own 25% of Alcanna, formerly Liquor Stores North America, the largest private liquor retailer in Canada. And we've done all of these things to give us optionality, a multitude of options. The bottom line is people want our cannabis products. They want our dried flower. They want our pre-rolls. They want our oils and our capsules today. Within a year, at most, after consumer legalization in Canada on the 17th of October, we are going to see the market in Canada, the consumer market, opened up to additional product forms, exciting product forms. Things like sublingual wafers that we've developed through our partnership with CTT Pharmaceuticals, in which we have an equity investment. Through things like vape pens. You've all seen vape pens, right? They're a very hot segment of the market in Colorado and Washington and California and the states that have legalized for consumer use, and in the gray market in Canada. You go into any dispensary in Vancouver or Victoria, and right behind the counter will be vape pens, disposables and cartridges, and it's an elegant product. It's clean, doesn't smell. You don't have to deal with dried cannabis. You can put it in your pocket or your purse, and we're going to be in that market in a very big way. Cannabis-infused beverages is going to be another killer. It's why the beverage companies are so interested in our sector right now. They are sensing the disruption. They can see it happening in states like Colorado, where alcohol sales are already coming down. And their attitude is, if you can't beat them, join them. And that's why one of the mature industries that's so interested in cannabis is the beverage industry. They can see where things are going. And if you think about it, consumers will have choices to make. If you're going out for an evening and you're in your early 20s, and you're likely going to consume anywhere from perhaps 3 to 8 beers, let's say, you can consume those at 140 calories per beer, or 90 calories per light beer, or 0 calories per cannabis-infused beverage. That's going to be some incredibly tough competitive pressure. All of these product forms will be open to us, and we have the technology to produce them, and we have the distribution channels to get them out there in front of patients and consumers in Canada. But more than that, a handful of companies in Canada have started to take this concept globally. We have started to define the global cannabis industry. Only a few of us will be able to do so. Only a few will be able to survive and be around in a few years. And in order to do that, you need your presence on the ground. You need a global footprint. You need distribution around the world. And so in the spring of 2017, we acquired a company called Pedanios for $23 million. At the time, not everybody was sure that was a smart thing to do. Today, every cannabis company in the world wishes they'd done that deal, because we are now, through Pedanios, which we have renamed as Aurora Deutschland, that's German for Germany. We are selling into the German medical cannabis system, which is growing incredibly fast. And why wouldn't it? Most patients are receiving insurance reimbursement for their medical cannabis. Can you imagine how quickly Canada's system would have grown if we had insurance reimbursement, which is now just starting out in Canada? We're also selling through Aurora Deutschland into Italy and Malta and all of the other medical cannabis markets that are cascading open in Europe are in our sights. We have boots on the ground and operations in 14 countries. This week was a big one for us, adding additional pieces to the puzzle. On Monday, we announced the acquisition of a company called ICC Labs. How many know about ICC? The market leader in South America. It's the jewel, I would say, of the South American system. Has 70% market share in Uruguay, which is not the world's largest market, but it was the first market in the world to legalize cannabis for consumer use. It has operations in Colombia. It has derivative capability that nobody else has in South America. It's very far ahead. It has greenhouses. It has outdoor grow. It has a management team that is among the juiciest assets in this acquisition. The management team at ICC is one of the reasons that this is a smart move for Aurora, a smart transaction. They're so well connected across Latin America. And what we're seeing in Latin America is similar to what we're seeing in Europe. Markets are slowly opening up, starting with medical, but with consumer in their sights. My prediction is that within 5 years, you will see most of the large markets in Latin America having moved toward consumer legalization. That's the pattern that we've seen in Canada. We know that social attitudes can change very, very quickly. In Canada, part of the reason why social attitudes with respect to cannabis have changed so much is because we have successful experience with our medical cannabis system. 350,000 Canadians with a prescription from their doctor for medical cannabis. And when Grandma and Uncle Ted are using cannabis to manage their arthritis, suddenly it's not such a scary substance. Suddenly something else starts to happen that makes me very happy, and that is we start to talk about the inappropriateness, the social injustice of criminal prohibition of cannabis. One of the things I've been speaking about loud and clear across Canada for over a year now, and somewhere where I've put our money where our mouth is amnesty. Amnesty for Canadians charged or convicted with nonviolent possession offenses. And there are a few reasons why this is so important. No good law is unevenly applied. The criminal prohibition of cannabis was unevenly applied, and unevenly applied in the worst possible way. Cannabis prohibition came down like a hammer on certain segments of society. It was Canadians of color, Indigenous Canadians, and low-income Canadians. It didn't come down on middle-class white Canadians. We had a bad law that was badly applied, and the social pressure built up over time. And 2 weeks ago, I announced a donation of $50,000 to the Canadian Campaign for Cannabis Amnesty. This is an element of advocacy that we build into our business, and we will take it with us globally. We believe in a healthy society. We believe in doing the right thing. We believe in justice. We believe in the Canadian way with respect to cannabis. And it's our plan to take that Canadian way around the world and build the best and ultimately the biggest cannabis company in the world. And to those of you who are already shareholders of Aurora, I thank you. And to those who are not, I hope you'll consider joining us and coming along for the ride. Thank you very much for your time. Michael, do we have time for a few questions? Okay. Can I hear some questions and shout them out? I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go to the lady back there. There's no question, for the time being, we have to be a little bit creative with our marketing. So up until the 17th of October, we've been doing things like sponsoring festivals. You might have noticed that we sponsored the Film Festival, the Toronto TIFF, right? And a series of concerts across the country. But our medical brand is already working for us, and our name recognition as a company and as a Canadian champion is already doing it. I can't tell you how odd it is, how truly odd it is, that I get stopped every time I'm in an airport or on the street at restaurants across this country, and actually in U.S. cities as well, because people recognize me, they know the company, whether they're shareholders or not, they know who we are. So even our social initiatives, even the advocacy that we undertake out of conviction, that is part of the sense of mission that we feel as employees of Aurora and as a company, even that contributes. And I'll tell you one last thing on this. It is my strong belief that within a very short period of time, we are going to see people calm down as social attitudes continue to change, and we will find cannabis restricted the same as beer, wine, and liquor. Science supports this. Rationality supports this. Logic supports this. We will get there. This lady out here. Ah, yes, Australis. Australis is another one of the gems at Aurora. So Australis is a new company that we're creating. It's a spin-out of our U.S. assets. So in order to ensure that the TSX doesn't get mad at us, and to ensure that our pending U.S. listing doesn't get mad at us, we are divesting all our U.S. assets. And we're creating a new company called Australis Capital. Now, we're doing something additional. We are essentially giving a dividend to all our Canadian shareholders, and I apologize to the Americans for this, of 1 share in Australis and 1 warrant at 25 cents for each 34 Aurora shares that you own. For our American shareholders, unfortunately, the rules don't permit us to do this, so you'll get a small cash payout, and it really won't be very much. But Australis is going to do in the U.S. what Aurora has done worldwide. It will seek out assets that we believe are significantly undervalued due to the fragmentation in the U.S. market and assemble them, assets that we believe will be worth more in the future than they are today. And there are some amazing gems available in production, in technology, in formulations. It's a very exciting time. And the date that Australis will start to trade on the CSE is September 19th. The last thing I'll say is we've been saying that we're going to move toward a U.S. listing. We are doing that, and our target is now next month, October. We are going to have our U.S. listing at that time, and very good things will happen. Are we all done? Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.